Hey guys, my name's Khan. I decided to do a series of videos based on WildStar, and I figure I'd start with a what is WildStar. So WildStar is Carbine, the developers, take on an old school MMO. So you have, kind of what you'd expect in an MMO. You still have the Trinity, which a lot of MMOs are getting away from. You have your standard stuff like guilds, you have PvP, PvE. They do kind of a standard questing format in this game, which a lot of people are getting away from, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It's not anything new, but you call your life stuff, your Hearthstone, or I think they call it recall in this game, mounts and things like that. So I guess let's go over the factions. So you have your Exiles, and you have Dominion. Dominion are kind of the more the bad guy in this. The bad guys in this game. Wouldn't really call them evil, but they also get all the new and pretty stuff. Their ships are brand new and stuff like that. Whereas the Exiles are kind of the ragtag group of people. In this game you get 6 classes. So like I said, you have your standard Trinity, and every class in this game can do DPS, and then they have a support role, and depending on the class, the support is tank or heals. So your Warrior, Engineer, and Stalker are your DPS tanking classes, and your Esper, Medic, and Spellslinger are your DPS healing classes. So the Warrior is kind of your standard warrior for MMOs. They have a giant two-handed sword and an arm cannon. The sword kind of is hack and slash, and the arm cannon has a couple different things you can do with it. Make it a little interesting. Engineer is the only pet class in the game. You can summon up to 2 bots at a time, and there's 4 total. They have a rifle type thing, they call it a launcher, and they're a DPS and tanking class. Esper can conjure, their weapon is a Psyblade, and they can conjure copies of this, they can conjure different bladed weapons, they can conjure creatures of different types to attack and heal and things like that. Medics have resonators, which shoot out waves of healing or damage, and then they have they can put down fields, and they can summon probes to hurt or heal allies. Stalker is your kind of standard rogue class. It can stealth. It has claws for weapons, dual claws, and it can tank. It's just like it's an evasion tank in the game, and it kind of feels very rogue-esque. Spellslinger has dual pistols. They're the longest range class in the game. They have very long and skinny telegraphs. I'll go over what telegraphs are in a different video, but they're heals in a DPS class, and they're pretty fun from what I've played. So now that I covered kind of what's similar to other MMOs with WildStar, or at least old school MMOs, I figured I'd go into what's kind of different. And I think the main thing is the combat in WildStar. It's based around telegraphs, which I'll show you some real quick. They come in a lot of different shapes. Like this is a little triangle. You have this is a straight line. You have 3 lines, and I think the middle line, the different shapes have effect on how the damage is applied to the different mobs and stuff. Get some resource here. I'll show you the next one. See, this one shoots out until it hits something and then creates that circle around them. Shoot out real quick. Another one. I'm gonna fight something real quick to show you guys how it kind of works. So not only do you have telegraphs, but the mobs do too. As you can see here, it's got a red one. And if you do manage to stun it in the red, it's while it's casting, I should say. Well, you get that kind of purple bar, which is called an opportunity. And these opportunities are pretty big because they basically double damage anything that's you hit them with while they're in that stun period. You can see there, I just did a couple rolls back. They call them dashes in this game, and you can see I have one right now in the bottom left, and it should have, there's two. So you can have up to two of these at once available to you. And it's another way WildStar kind of gives you more things to do in combat. And another thing that WildStar does is instead of having to pick up every individual piece of loot, they do what's called a loot vacuum. So I just hit V and it sucks up all the loot. So it's kind of a nice little feature. So I guess to continue with how WildStar's combat's a little different is they have a double jump in the game, which a lot of MMOs don't do, which kind of plays into avoiding telegraphs and other things in the game, and frankly it's just fun. They give you a sprint, so you can see the sprint bar slowly going down, and that recharges over time, you can see. Alright, I guess I'll go over that. Here we go. So you kind of, as I mentioned before, that you have PvP and PvE, and you have your standard, you know, your battlegrounds and you have your arenas and your dungeons, and you have practice versions of your PvP stuff. But then WildStar did something a little different. They have what they're calling adventures, which are very similar to dungeons. They can be a scenario, which is kind of like a very long escort quest. You can kind of choose your own dungeon kind of thing, where the dungeon will split multiple times and you can choose which direction you want to go. So it could have, you know, several dozen possibilities for the way the dungeon plays out. And they also have and dungeons and adventures are 5-mans, where they have what's called a ship hand, which is, it scales from 1 person to 5 people. So if you just want to go and do it yourself, it's doable. Might be a little harder, but it's definitely doable. And then on the PvP side, which is something a little different that WildStar has done, is war plots. It's 40 versus 40. It's basically battle fortresses that the players themselves construct and customize. It's based on their housing system, which I don't know if you haven't looked into it. I'll be doing a video eventually on it, but their housing system is very customizable, which makes war plots incredibly customizable. And then WildStar is going to have, you know, raiding, which a lot of MMOs now aren't really shipping with much endgame content, but they are shipping with 1 20-man and 1 40-man version, 40-man raid. They're separate raids, so it's not this skilled up version for the 40-man. It's a completely separate raid, and they're kind of going old school where you have to get attunements for it. So you have to, you know, go through your adventures and dungeons at veteran mode, and then you have to get through your 20-man raid, and then you can do your 40-man raid, which is kind of a nice change going back to the way they used to, a lot of MMOs used to do it. So, and I think the last thing I want to cover is paths. And paths are kind of a layer of content that allows you, oh, I should start over. You get to pick of 1 of 4 paths in the game. There is Soldier, Settler, Scientist, and Explorer. and each path kind of is geared towards a particular play style. So if you're a soldier, it gives you more opportunities to basically just kill stuff or try out different kind of weaponry, like not one-time use, but short-term use weaponry. If you're a scientist, it gives you a lot of lore. So those people that love just to, find every little detail about the world, that's the thing for you. Settler, they build things in the world, so it gives you a short-term buff for a lot of things. They can build like kind of transport things to get you back to town quick, different things like that. And then finally, Explorer is exactly what it sounds like. You explore, and it's kind of if you ever played Guild Wars 2, it's they have a lot of those jumping puzzles. It's kind of similar to that, where it's you get up high and you place beacons or flags or something, or you unlock a hidden cave and you get to explore, and content other players wouldn't necessarily get to see. The cool thing is, if you're grouped up with any of these other paths, you can do the content with them, and you get path XP, which is separate from just your regular level XP, and you get abilities that unlock as you go, and they're different for all the paths. Nothing that's character breaking or game breaking. It's all outside of combat stuff, so it's a nice little layer of content they've put in that you can pick what you want. You don't have to do it if you don't want. You just won't get the little quality of life things like port to the capital city or port people to you kind of stuff. So I guess one last note would be I think there have been some very good reviews of WildStar and some bad reviews of WildStar, and I think the bad reviews are stemming around the beginning zones and the questing. The questing is not groundbreaking by any means. You get quest hubs, you go out, you do a bunch of quests, you come back, you turn them in, and the combat, I really feel kind of makes up for that. But the first couple zones are really a tutorial for people that have never played. So if you've played an MMO, it's going to be boring. It is. I didn't. This is my engineer, and I was getting pretty bored of them until about the mid-teens, and then it just started to be so much fun. The combat really makes up for it. The telegraphs become much more interesting and a lot harder, and if you don't avoid them, they hurt a lot, as opposed to the beginning ones where it's this little tiny square that's slow moving and you can plenty of time to get out of it. So if you guys are thinking about giving this game a try, and you get through the first couple levels and you're really not liking it, get to, I believe it's 15 is where you get your first adventure, and 13 or so for your ship hand. Do one of those, and I'd be surprised if you didn't like it. You really get a feel for the game once you get into an instance, and once you start to get into the mid-teens, early 20s. That's when the game kind of really opens up, in my opinion. I just want to say thanks for watching, guys, and if you liked the video, please give me a like. If you really like to, give me a subscribe, and feel free to leave any comments you have.